Hello and welcome back to the channel, everybody. I am your host, Vortex, from MobileMusicPro.com, your home for mobile music production. And if you are new to the channel, what we do here is release weekly videos teaching people how to produce music on their iOS device. And in today's video, we're going to give you our 5 reasons why we think iOS music production is the future for music making. And remember folks, if you do enjoy this content, make sure to like, subscribe, and share out the show. Now, I just recently watched a video on Henny the Business's channel, and if you don't know who he is, don't worry, we'll make sure to leave a link to his video in the description below. And Henny recently made that video asking his audience what the future of iOS music production is, and that definitely inspired us to make this video. And since we have been making music on the iPad since around 2013, we really have observed all the changes and evolutions that the iPad has undergone in the past decade or so. And so we really thought we could weigh in with our opinion here. And we'd like to simply and quickly explain the main reasons why we think iOS music production is going to be an important part of every producer's future. Now, we do have 5 main points to cover, so without further ado, let's get right into showing you why we think iOS music production is the future for making music. Now, as we said at the top of the show, we have been making music on the iPad since all the way back to about 2013 or so. I remember my first iPad, which was an iPad mini, and I got it just so I could check out the video games and see what the mobile gaming scene was like back then. And then of course I downloaded that first synthesizer and everything else was history. And then I think my friend and producer Blind over there from Braille Audio, who helps us produce our sample packs, I believe that he started out with an original iPad 1. So I think he actually had an iPad even before I did. But as you can see here, I started with just basically an iPad mini on top of a table, and then it all grew from there. Eventually I got some professional studio monitors and a bigger desk. But of course, as you guys know, it really doesn't matter what you're producing your music on, whether it's on a brand new shiny iPad or a super old MPC, it just matters that you're having fun and that you're following your passion. And if you do want to see what our studio looks like today, you can definitely check out our Instagram account at MobileMusicPro or go to our website and we have a picture of it right there on the homepage. And really, I have been thinking about this topic for a long time. In fact, we'll throw up an Instagram image here that I posted almost a year ago that really, in my mind, outlines the main steps that Apple took to make the iPad a professional music production device. And of course, this video was also going to be inspired from that as well, in addition to Henny's video. Now, I think with the knowledge of my history with mobile music production, you can kind of see why I'm so passionate. So let's go ahead and get into the very first reason why I do think mobile music production is going to be the future of music making. Alright, reason number 1 is going to be portability. The iPad is of course extremely small and light compared to your average MacBook, and even compared to your average Windows laptop. The iPad Pros do top out at around 12.9 inches, but you can still grab the 11-inch, and that really does make a big difference. And in fact, Henny the Business, the producer that inspired this video, actually prefers the 11-inch to the 12.9-inch iPad. Now really, since I don't travel with mine much, I definitely always prefer the 12.9-inch. In fact, if I could, I would get a 13 or a 14-inch iPad just because it's that good. I really would appreciate the extra screen real estate, but again, that does hinder the portability. Now the smallest MacBook Pro is still weighing in at around 3 or 4 pounds, which does make it 3 or 4 times heavier than even the iPad Pro. You can see here that it's just really extremely small. It has a really small footprint, and you can even see just how absolutely thin it is. Just really just a magical piece of glass, people. This is what this device is. In fact, we can compare it with our laptop here. So we actually have a Asus laptop here that we actually use for our main laptop here inside of the studio. And as you can see, this laptop here is actually pretty thin. It's actually pretty thin and lightweight. It really was designed to be a bit of a mobile laptop, really to be a laptop on the go. And it only has a 13-inch screen, but yet it's still 3 or 4 times heavier than the iPad Pro, because here, if you just compare it and take a look, you can see the footprint here is definitely smaller. And this, of course, is just when the laptop is closed. If you were to open up the laptop, you, of course, then have to accommodate for twice as much space. So then when you start sticking an iPad on top of that, you can really see that there just really is no comparison anymore. So though the laptops have been an amazing piece of technology and really the first mobile revolution, they're just nothing these days compared to what this magical piece of glass can do. It's so shiny and pretty. Can you guys see yourself? Look, you can see yourself. Now you can see yourself. And if we didn't mention it just yet, this is the 2018 iPad Pro 12.9 inch. This is our day-to-day iPad. This is what we use in our studio. This is of course what all the videos are recorded off and what all of our music is made on. So then what's our future prediction for the portability of the iPad? Well, we think it's just going to keep getting thinner and lighter as the years go on. Alright, now reason number 2 that we're giving is accessibility. And of course that does include the touchscreen. Now touchscreens aren't really that new, we've had those all the way back in the early 2000s. But what is new is the app developers creating amazing experiences that are designed for the touch. Whereas before, we were pretty much just trying to control our regular normal desktop apps with touch, and that just really doesn't work, as those were all really designed for mouse and keyboard. So to have these apps be completely designed from scratch to be compatible with touch is a completely new experience. So again, the apps that get released for iPad aren't simply just clones of their desktop counterparts. They really are unique and different experiences, and are usually much easier to use. For example, just take a DAW like Cubase. It definitely takes a little bit of setup time on your desktop, but on the iPad, all you have to do is simply download the app and tap on it once. And that's pretty much it. You can just immediately plug in a MIDI controller and everything is good to go. And some of those apps that we mentioned that are unique for the touchscreen are MIDI controller apps. There is a variety of these different type of MIDI controller apps. Everything from crazy and strange all the way to just standard faders and XY pads. And finally, the last thing that does fall under the accessibility reason here is the price of the apps. Currently, as it stands, every single iPad app is pretty much cheaper than its desktop counterpart. Now, that doesn't mean that there are some companies in the space that are trying to push the price boundary limits. For example, IK Multimedia and some of their apps like Mixbox, and then FabFilter and their suite of apps. Now, all of these apps that we just mentioned are definitely more expensive than their competitors in the iOS App Store, but they're still extremely more cheap and less expensive than the desktop counterparts. So for example, you can get the entire suite of FabFilter plugins for around $200, which is usually the price of one single plugin on the desktop. So there really is just a ton of unique and affordable experiences here available for the mobile music producer. Now, our future prediction for the accessibility here on the iPad is that apps will get more expensive. As larger app developers enter the space and apps become more complex, developers will demand a higher price for their software. And that's completely okay with us as long as the features are worth the price. Alright, and we are on reason number 3, and that is processing power. Apple has pretty much continuously doubled the speed of the iPad every single year since the very first version. And in fact, the new M1 chips were actually inspired from architecture created for the iPad. And now it's about to come full circle because we're hearing rumors now that the next iPad, the 2021 iPad Pro, will have an M1-like chip in it, or at least a chip comparable to the M1 speeds. And that, of course, is super exciting for music producers because all of our apps pretty much eat up DSP like fat kids eat cake. Wait, can I say that? Is that politically correct? Probably not. And remember that the 2018 iPad Pro was already outperforming most laptops on the market. Unfortunately, the 2020 iPad Pro really didn't add too much in speed. And we believe the reason for that long gap in speed improvements is because they were working on the M1 chip. And even going beyond that, they were working on an M1 chip that can be compatible with the iPad. So whether that comes out this year or next year, we really are expecting great things from Apple for that next A14X chip. So our future prediction here is really not going to be that much of a surprise, and that is that Apple will continue to double their speeds on their iPads almost every single year, until at some point it really does reach desktop-like parity. And there really pretty much is every single app that you can ever imagine. Like we said, I mean, you have your drum machines like this. You can even have full-on synthesizers with all the features of their desktop counterparts. And of course, even all the classics are available now, including things like the Mini Moog here, the Core Gam 1, and even amazing synthesizers like the Model 15 here. Just look at this, just look how beautiful this is. So in short, a lot more amazing apps and unique experiences are on their way, and so is the CPU power to handle it all. Alright, moving right along here, we are at reason number 4, and that is iPadOS. Now, iPadOS introduced a number of laptop or desktop-like features for the iPad. And one of those things included a full-on file system in the form of the Files app. Now with this Files app, it's just like Windows Explorer on Windows, or the Finder on macOS. You can easily organize your files by creating folders, and have access to all the file folders that your apps are using. This makes things like adding presets to your app really simple, as usually all you have to do is copy a zip file into the app's directory. And with this file system, you can also have access to network storage. And we definitely use this all the time. If you've ever seen any of our videos, you'll definitely probably see us browse to our file server to grab things like audio samples and MIDI files, as we centrally store all of our files on our file server instead of our iPad. Now the second big thing that iPadOS brings is full-on keyboard and mouse support. Now this was really huge for me because I am definitely a keyboard and mouse guy. Don't get me wrong, I love the touch, but at the end of the day, I don't want to use touch for everything. Really, somewhere around 70, 80, 90% 90% of the time I do want to use a mouse, especially for getting around the grid inside the DAW, and using things like the piano roll or MIDI editor. But again, I really do love that touch feature, and what I use it the most for is interacting with plugins. It's a really tactile experience and really brings back the old days of having rack mounts and servers inside of your studio. Now, of course, no one wants to deal with all of those old hardware problems, and most of us would much rather just add a virtual instrument and modify it there. But again, this touch functionality really does create this amazing tactile experience, and really brings you closer to your music, almost feeling like you can touch it. Now, the third thing that iPadOS brings probably isn't too important to a lot of people, but it is to us, and that is a desktop-like browser. So no longer will websites think that you're on a mobile device or on an iPhone. They'll recognize it as pretty much a regular Mac. And so now you can have that full desktop browsing experience right here on your iPad. Now, it may not have a lot to do with music production directly, but it absolutely will help your day-to-day workflow. All right, our future prediction here, let's go into our crystal ball and figure this out. Now, again, all one really has to do is take a look at the trajectories that we're currently on. And that is that the iPad is getting faster, there's more and more iPads out there, and now we have the M1 chip where Apple has a clear vision to try to somehow merge the iPad and the Mac. So when I do take a look at all of these things coming together and converging, what I really see here is the real merging and blending of software between iOS and macOS. And pretty much what that means in practice is that we are going to get those popular desktop software applications such as Logic, Final Cut, and more brought down to the scale of the iPad. Now, there definitely will be differences here between, for example, the Final Cut version for iPad and the Final Cut version for Mac, but overall, most of the features should transfer over pretty easily. All right, we are finally on our very last and fifth reason, and that is USB-C. Starting back in 2018, Apple did start featuring the USB-C standard inside of the iPad Pros. Now, this USB-C standard does now give us a bunch of awesome benefits. And one of those benefits being that all of our multi-adapters now are extremely cheap compared to their Lightning counterparts. With the Lightning standard, Apple could pretty much charge whatever they wanted. And they also kept a bunch of the specifications close to their chest. And what this ended up resulting is super expensive Apple adapters that worked pretty well, or cheap Lightning adapters that really almost never worked at all. But now with this modern USB-C standard, the iPad can support any class-compliant MIDI device or audio interface. And that is really huge because you can just hook up your Focusrite right now to the iPad and it'll work. And that's just really huge. Being able to hook up pretty much any class-compliant audio interface to your iPad and start hooking up microphones and instruments pretty much wherever you are on the go or in the studio is a huge benefit. And another great benefit of this USB-C standard is being able to use external storage. And when you combine the USB-C port with the Files app, you now pretty much have full capabilities of external storage. So you can hook up pretty much anything that you want if you have the right adapter. You can hook up a flash drive, an external USB drive, pretty much anything you'd like. And in addition to these external storage devices, you can now also hook up a monitor. You could sort of do it before with the Lightning adapter, but sometimes would work, sometimes it doesn't. Now it really does look amazing when you hook up a fully awesome HDMI monitor to your iPad. We definitely have plans to do that ourselves, but unfortunately we had some health issues that kind of set us back a little bit, but definitely soon we are going to hook up our brand new 22-inch monitor to our iPad. Oh wait, no, that was a 24-inch. Again, I would have done it already, but the health issues is definitely setting me back a little bit. So now with these cheap but fully functional USB-C multi-adapters, you can have your iPad plugged in to make sure that it has power, you can have all the external storage that you want, and then hook up an external monitor, and it really almost has all the capabilities and features of a laptop in a super light form factor. So as it stands now, we already have large manufacturers creating MIDI devices and audio interfaces specifically designed for the mobile use of an iPad. And my future prediction here is that that is definitely not going to stop or slow down. I do believe that more and more hardware manufacturers will continue to target iOS music producers and really start to create more devices that complement the iPad's portable nature. Alright folks, if you are still rocking with us, then we can't thank you enough for being here. And we especially can't thank those that watch our live streams and our live premieres every Wednesday and Friday. Now we do hope that this video has given you enough of a reason to see why people find producing music on the iPad so very special. There really is a bright future here for mobile music producers, and the foundation has already really been laid. Even though it is still early, that just means that there is a ton of opportunity still left on the table. And of course, we will do our best to keep you up to date with the latest and greatest apps and the latest and greatest music production techniques on the iPad. And please guys, if we did miss any of the reasons why you think iOS music production is the future, definitely leave them in the comments below. And don't forget that we are on Clubhouse now, having a brand new live Clubhouse meetup every single Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we're now broadcasting those live Clubhouse meetups on our YouTube channel, so definitely make sure to tune in. And finally, we are still giving away a brand new copy of Cubasis 3 every single month until June. To enter this free giveaway, all you have to do is go to MobileMusicPro.com and click on the Cubasis 3 giveaway link. And of course, we always have a ton more content and tools coming your way, so if you do want to keep up with everything that we are doing here at Mobile Music Pro, everything from contests to giveaways to sample packs and more, then definitely make sure to subscribe to our free mailing list at MobileMusicPro.com. And so, until next time everybody, keep talking music and we'll see you later. It's time for the outro song. It's so soft. It's so pretty and soft. Now we do hope that this video has given you enough of a reason why, God damn it, enough of a reason to see why so many people.